What's up, y'all? Kyle Hamilton here. I want to give a quick shout out to Lucas, Connor, and Ryan in the Week 0 podcast.
Jackson rolling out, 3rd and 7 after the penalty, and it's a completion to Kuma. He's still running. Kuma breaks free against a tired defense as the Hokies deliver the dagger here in Tallahassee. Empty look for Richardson. Oh, that is danger! Oh my! Keidron Smith cuts inside, and he's gonna pick six it in the swamp. Cat scratch fever Smith.
DJ is picked off, intercepted again by Benjamin Morrison. Here goes Morrison down the sideline. Can he go? Yes, he can. Touchdown, pick six, Benjamin Morrison. Nix drops back underneath. Touchdown, Ducks. Wow. Chase Taylor.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of The Gold Standard. I'm your host, Ryan Fravel, here with my buddy Sean at ND Forever on Twitter. Been a week, a lot of Notre Dame news going on. How have you been, Sean?
Been great. It's been a great week as a Notre Dame fan, right? We had a lot going on, so let's get it. How about you?
Doing really well. As we stated, big week for Notre Dame. First things first, the commits for Notre Dame just continue to roll in, as we see with Notre Dame on a year-to-year basis. They always have that month stretch where it seems like they're just popping quirks on commitments left and right. Most recent one, 3-star linebacker from Virginia, Bodie Calhoun. So I'll pull him up here. First things first, Sean. What are your thoughts on the commitment, and what do you think this means for Notre Dame's class of 2024? What is Notre Dame getting in Bodie Calhoun?
So usually when I look at recruits, I have an idea what I expect, or with him it was very unexpected. So I'm still unsure how I feel about. I mean, of course, welcome anybody. Not saying how I feel about him joining, but I'm still unsure how I feel about him as a player. He reminds me of Jack Kaiser a bit. In a sense, I think he's going to fit that role. He's somebody that's not going to – if he stays at Notre Dame and develops, he will be a great special teams player and a great late in career starter, depending on how deep the linebacker room is. So that's what I expect. But how do you feel about this one, man? This is your I with him. I you know what I'm saying? He's the first time I'm actually kind of unsure how I feel about him on a field purposes.
Yeah, I like him as a prospect. I think he's got a lot of talent, obviously, but I think he's one of those prospects that's still kind of raw. I don't really know how to feel about him either. I've heard good things, and I'm always in the boat that whatever stars by these kids' names that Notre Dame offers or goes after, I've got to trust the process in terms of what Marcus Freeman does and how he evaluates these kids. Everything I've heard, the staff loves this kid. They were looking at, if everything went right, what they wanted for this year's linebacker class was Bodie Calhoun. Oh, God. Who was the other middle linebacker we got?
Oh,
who was that other one? Why is that slipping my mind right now? You know who I'm talking about. God.
Yes,
dang.
we just talked about him.
Was it Mullins? Was he?
Yeah, we were talking about Cole Mullins. He's a linebacker, and then they're also looking at
Vilimu Asa, I think.
Yep.
Kingston Vilimu Asa. I think that's what the reports came out, that if the staff could get Vilimu Asa, Calhoun, and Mullins in this class, that they would feel pretty good. I know a lot of Notre Dame fans weren't, because they saw, we got a top 100 linebacker, but then we have 2 3-stars.
Dude, last year's linebacker class was elite. So I mean, I mean, it's okay to have a year where they're kind of like lower in the chain for development, depth reasons, and then next year have a even bigger body of work linebacker group. But I did read that this was a diamond in the rough player. I don't know who said that. I think it could have been Tyler Horka or Kelly down there, blue and gold. But he always says he likes his diamond in the rough players. Al Golden likes to get ahead of things. Marcus Freeman likes to get ahead of things before other teams. You know, Notre Dame has that trend to get the start of things fast. So this is one of these players that they feel is on the rise, and they got ahead of it. And now that they have him, expect him to rise. So I can see him being a diamond in the rough. You know, there's always a surprise in the class. Always, whether it's Joe Alt, etc. Like
Benjamin Morrison, just the last year.
There's always a freshman that breaks out, and there's always a surprise, and he could be the surprise. He could be. You never know how deep the linebacker room is. Not saying he is, but maybe.
For sure. I mean, and like you had said, we had a rock star linebacker class last year. Who's to say Drac Bowen and Jaden Osbury don't see the field a lot this season, with what we've seen from those two guys. But just looking ahead to 2025, Notre Dame's a heavy contender for the number one linebacker in 2025 in Nasir Wyatt, from everything I've read. So that would be a huge get if we can get the best linebacker in the class.
The rankings are early, right? There's so many times at this point where I will see a 2025, for example, linebacker or player that will start off. For example, I remember when Rocco Splendor was listed as defensive tackle early on, and there was an offensive tackle that went to the same college or same high school as him, and they were ranked as 5 stars, top 10 players. And then Rocco fell to a top 50 player, and that top 10 player that went to school with him fell to like 200. Like, it is very early. The rankings are very early for 2025, but I mean, he's obviously good if he's this highly ranked this early on.
He's the number 25 overall player and the number 1 linebacker. So to me, he may not be that good, but he must be pretty damn good to be the number 1 linebacker in this class already.
Hopefully it's not like a Brennan Vernon situation. Top 10 player, top 5 star falls to a barely top 200 player. Like, that's bullshit.
Well, let's be real here. That's because Brennan Vernon, he wasn't the guy that liked to camp a lot.
Yeah. So
and after he committed, he's just like, yeah.
So they fell in the rankings because other kids were doing camps while he was like, I'm already committed. I don't need to be flashy. So I agree.
But next up, we'll talk about the thing with Jason Robinson. Obviously, he's an Irish legacy. Seems like along with him and Bryce Young, it seemed like it was a matter of time before we got both of those guys. Bryce Young popped 2 weeks ago, almost, and it seems like things are slipping in terms of Notre Dame and Jason Robinson Jr. How do you view the situation? Do you think the reports are true that Notre Dame's kind of fallen off? They're happy with what they've got. They don't really want Jason Robinson in the class anymore. How do you feel about it personally?
Yeah, Notre Dame's backing off, right? And I think that's a mistake. We talked before the show. How I feel is we should have 4 receivers in this class. Reason being, if one were to decommit, we would still feel safe with 3 that we have. We don't want a situation where one decommits and then we look for another receiver late in the process and we're stuck with somebody low in the rankings or somebody that we might not have wanted as much when we could have gotten a more talented player, right? I think 4 is a good number for this receiver class, especially with how many freshmen we have this year and how many people are going to be leaving after this year. So to keep the room filled without having to bring in transfers every year. I think that's important. I think Jason Robinson's really talented, and I feel like if we were to get him, we would have one of the best receiving for this recruiting classes in the country. But I think Colorado's a big contender here. Reason being, Notre Dame backing off, right? It's not like, Colorado's snatching from us. I think if Notre Dame wants him, and they will get him, we'll see what the numbers game looks like with receiver and how they feel. Maybe they are backing off. They were originally wanting 4, and then they saw how these freshmen were doing, and they're like, well, maybe we'll take 3 this class. So I don't know. I wish him luck. I think he's important. I think it'd be important to get him in this class. I really do. I think he's a talented receiver, and you can never have enough bodies in the room. So that's my take. I hope he ends up at Notre Dame, but Notre Dame is backing off of him.
I definitely agree. I love Micah Gilbert. I love Cam Williams, obviously. I love this entire wide receiver class. Would I love Jason Robinson? Yes, I do. I think it's like if we were guaranteed that Isaiah Canion was not going to decommit, okay, I'm kind of more fine with it because I think Canion personally is going to be a stud when he gets to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
But I'm too unsure now.
Yeah, I said that last week.
Canion did an interview this week where he was asked about, he's committed to Notre Dame. He just got offered from Auburn and Florida. Georgia and Alabama are seriously looking at keeping tabs on him as his ranking recruiting-wise skyrockets. And he was asked, like, are you going to take any official visits to any SEC teams this year? And he said, I'm on the fence right now. That doesn't seem like a kid to me that's for sure knows that he wants to be at Notre Dame. It sounds like a kid to me. And I'm not saying like Canion might be, he wants to be at Notre Dame, but it just sounds like to me that Notre Dame was kind of a placeholder.
I said this last week that when it came to Gilbert, when we were talking about all these commitments, when he just committed, when it came to Cam Williams, when it came to Gilbert, I was comfortable. But for some reason, Georgia, when those teams start knocking, I had a feeling like it worried me about Isaiah. I agree. That's why I think we should get Robinson. And if he decommits, we have a good 3 receivers, I think it'd be a mistake to back off Robinson, let him go to Colorado. Canyon goes to Georgia, and then we're stuck getting somebody. I also like Tay Johnson. I know they like him at safety. Purdue likes him at receiver. I like him at receiver more than safety. I think he's super talented. He's in Indiana. Who wouldn't want to go to Notre Dame? That's a target that I feel he's a top 150 player, top 200 player. So,
especially if Notre Dame loses a recruiting battle to Purdue.
Yeah.
Something seriously wrong there. There is something seriously wrong there.
Yeah, you shouldn't be losing in-state, and same thing with Chicago. You shouldn't be losing anybody from Chicago. Justin Scott, for example.
I've seen a lot of things kind of saying the Tay Johnson situation kind of reminds people of Will Shipley, where in terms of like he's such a Notre Dame fit, and you just think that he would be perfect at Notre Dame. He's gonna end up at Notre Dame. And people say, he's going to end up going to Clemson or he's going to end up going somewhere else. Obviously, the Will Shipley thing was a little different, but I don't know, man. I have never. I personally. Go ahead.
So I've never been more upset about a recruit than Shipley. You could ask my wife. I was upset when Will Shipley committed to Clemson, and reason being, I feel if COVID never happened and he went to that, like I think it was right before St. Patrick's Day or after, there was like a big recruiting weekend that was going to happen that got canceled. If he went there, I think he would have gone. I mean, I felt like Notre Dame, he was best friends with the recruiting class, academics. He just felt like a lot. And when he committed to Clemson, it's right now Clemson. I've probably never going to another school. Favorite recruit, I was never been more excited to get a recruit at Notre Dame than I was with Chris Tyree. So, good conversation. But
it also kind of and Sean, I don't know, your thing's kind of cutting in and out, your audio, but with me, Shipley was one of those guys that it was kind of like it almost hurt me more because I don't know if you remember, but he did an interview the week of the Notre Dame game last year and was asked, like, there were numerous reports that you were almost guaranteed to go to Notre Dame. You know, you're facing Notre Dame. What kind of what does that bring to your mind? And he's like, well, he said, I'm not going to lie to you. He said it was really close between Clemson and Notre Dame. And I'll tell you right now, Notre Dame was my second choice. If I didn't end up at Clemson, I was going to be at Notre Dame. That to me stung even more because he acknowledged just how close he was to going to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Now, would I rather have Will Shipley or Audric Estime? Give me Audric Estime. But because we saw what happened to Will Shipley when he played Notre Dame. He got absolutely shut down. But
do you hear me now?
I hear you a lot better now. Yeah.
What was what I asked when I was cutting out, like I said, for me, Will Shipley was the most recruitment that I was upset with, and Chris Tyree was actually the one I was most excited with. Who was your most excited and recruitment that you've seen?
Most exciting to me, probably Jalen Smith. Smith.
I mean, that's a great one.
Yeah. Disappointing, Keon Keeley. I really thought Keon Keeley was out of Peyton Bowen and Keon Keeley. I don't know about you personally, but I thought Keeley was for sure going to stay at Notre Dame because he didn't seem like the type of kid, and his family didn't seem like the type of people that were like, oh, it's NIL or nothing. Was kind of disappointed in the way that went, but that one killed me. I was probably on Twitter. I was on Twitter for probably 2 weeks after he decommitted, just flat out complaining all the time. I'm just like, dude, like, please. Like, you gotta be effing kidding me.
I was upset with Keeley too, just because so early in the cycle when he committed, how he rose up the rankings, he was just such a Notre Dame, like, let's get it, Notre Dame, and as he got closer and closer and closer, you saw it fade. So it was like,
and it made me more mad with the situation because his mom, like, put out I don't know if you saw the whole thing, but she put out a tweet, and I believe Notre Dame Prime and a bunch of other Notre Dame accounts like commented on it because she said something about how Keon went to they asked for $1 million or something like it was something like that, asked for money, and Notre Dame didn't match, and that's why he ended up at Alabama. And then because she got a lot of heat for it, she deleted the tweet. And then Keon the next week was asked about it and said, no, I just went to Alabama because they could develop me better than Notre Dame could.
You would have started day one at Notre Dame. What bothered me with his recruitment is he said he wanted to go to a school where he would be different.
The guy.
Right? A guy. And if you're going to Alabama, you're just like everybody else. Well, if you go to Notre Dame, you start week one. And I think the reason he went to Bama was his mom.
Yeah.
Which is okay. Some people go to Notre Dame.
Hey, man, his mom secured the bag. You can't,
yeah.
I mean, it's whatever.
It's crazy. But yes, Jason Robinson, hopefully we get him. But if not, the class is still going to be a top 10 class, still going to be an amazing class. I expect more good news when it comes to some big recruits, hopefully. So.
And then moving on, we'll go to our second to last topic. Logan Diggs, obviously, entered the portal. It was a couple weeks ago. Kind of a matter of time before he ended up at LSU. Obviously, ends up with good old Bayou Brian, reunites with him back in LSU. What are your thoughts on the move for him? And me personally, I don't think he starts over John Emery, but we'll just have to see. What do you think about the move, though?
Okay, so I agree. I got a really close friend. He's a diehard LSU fan. And we were talking about this, and he didn't really know about Diggs much, but he was like, he's probably going to be like a second, third string. Is he good? And I was like, yes, he is good. You know, if you asked me, like, if I would rather have Will Shipley or Audric or Diggs, I'd rather have Diggs and Audric as a duo than Shipley. But Audric versus Shipley kind of gets with Diggs gone. That's where it's kind of like a debate for me. But I would probably take Audric just because he's a Jerome Bettis 2.0. But, you know, I told him Diggs is a really good runner. I think he's going to have the same role he had at Notre Dame, so I don't quite understand the move on that aspect. To be great, he's going to be exactly doing splitting time like he would here. I expect him to be the RB2, splitting reps. I do think it was a matter of time. I remember in his recruitment, he commits to Notre Dame, and on signing day, everyone was nervous. And caves. Is he gonna here? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're a lot better now.
Is he going to go, like I said, is he going to go to LSU after his recruitment? Is he going to go to LSU after Kelly leaves? We all knew he was going to LSU. Let's be real. He's from there. It was a matter of time. He just wants to be home. I don't blame him. I hope that he doesn't have animosity towards Notre Dame fans. It seems like a lot when he tweets that it's kind of like, y'all are negative. You know what I'm saying? Like, tune out the noise. Notre Dame fans are very negative, but they're also some of the most positive. So I hope he remembers that.
And we're like every single fan base, man. It's if you screw us over and you leave, don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out. If you want to be here and you want to compete, and if you win something at Notre Dame, you're a god to Notre Dame fans. If you do what other players have done, you're public enemy number one at Notre Dame. That's just how it is. That's pretty much every single fan base, though, unless you're Alabama, because their fans are spoiled and have a ton of national championships.
Yeah. But I think Diggs is. I don't see him having a really big role there for them. You know, it's going to be the same thing he would do at Notre Dame. He just wants to be home. He'll probably be with Kelly. Don't blame him. I will always remember him for the UVA hurdle, right?
Yes. Yes.
So he was big. He did good. I mean, he had some good seasons for Notre Dame. He had some good games. Audric's the RB1, which is known. It's going to be interesting who's going to be RB2. That's a big word. I think if Notre Dame fans hit you on the way, like the door hit you out, or I'm not worried. We have a really good running back room. I think that's kind of stupid. I think I would rather have him and Audric as a duo again. I don't think there'd be a top duo than that in the country if he stayed. But now I'm a little worried about the RB2 situation just because we got a freshman coming in, Payne, who's unproven, and then we got Price coming back from injury. It's just so many unanswered questions heading into the fall, which will be answered in the fall. And if Price is back to normal, then I'm just, but I am worried about the art because, I don't think Audric, I don't want him carrying the ball. I mean, I would love if he carried the ball 30 times a game, right? But I do think he needs to have a change. We need to have a change of pace running back that's a different style than him, and I hope one of those fits the mold. But how do you feel about the situation?
I like Diggs a lot. I agree with you that I think they were the best tandem in college football, but I do think that Jabron Payne, Jadarian Price, when Jeremiah Love gets on campus, I think those three guys, at least by committee, I know for a fact could give you, what Diggs could give you. The question is, can Payne Price and Love, can one of those guys take charge and get that second running back spot and be effective? Me personally, because obviously Love's not on campus yet. If he was, I would say Love would be my favorite because the way Love runs is a lot like Logan Diggs. He's a power runner, but he's also got quickness. So that's me, but I'm not sleeping on Price or Payne. I understand that Payne is coming off injury, so is Price. But I still think that both of them can be really good. I'm not as worried, but nonetheless. We got a question here from my buddy Phil. Does Notre Dame beat the other state week 4? Because he's a Michigan fan, so he won't say Ohio State. Yes, they better.
I do think so. It's green jerseys. You're going to have a great atmosphere, and their quarterback and offensive line questions. That's a dub. In my opinion, it's going to be a close game. It's not going to be a blowout. We could lose. It's going to be a great game. It's Ohio State. You never say, it's going to be a blowout against them. But I do think we win that game just with the experience Hartman has versus the experience their quarterbacks has, our offensive line, our offense versus theirs, and our defense, especially our defensive back room. I think we edged that out. The environment at home, we almost beat them last year. We were leading literally till the last seconds of the third quarter. Yeah. So, and we looked like shit in that game.
We looked like shit offensively in that game. Offensively, we looked like shit. Oh, yeah. Defensively, we looked like the best. Do you remember when coming out of that game, ESPN wasn't, for the first time ever, wasn't shitting on Notre Dame? They were talking about how great Notre Dame's defense was. And I believe Riley Mills came out and said this might be the best defense in college football ever. And I was like, well,
lost the next week.
You guys lost to Marshall and gave up I think it was 36 points. I'm like, okay.
I think it's having 4 weeks or 3 weeks of games before you play Ohio State. It gives you some game reps not to go in there as your first opponent, which could be a benefit or, because it's the for them.
I will say though, I personally looking at Notre Dame's schedule, as you're cutting out again, Sean, I personally looking at Notre Dame's schedule and Ohio State's schedule. I like that Notre Dame has a tough, I wouldn't say tough, but they have a decent opponent in between, week 1 in Ohio State and NC State, which I don't want the Notre Dame players. I don't want Notre Dame fans to look over that game because that's a road game at Carter Finley.
NC State's tough.
Yeah, NC. I'm not saying Notre Dame's not better, but that screams trap game. That just screams trap game. So, especially it's 2 weeks before Ohio State. You got Navy, NC State, Central Michigan, and Ohio State.
Who's the quarterback for NC State too? Isn't it Armstrong? Didn't Armstrong?
Bernie Armstrong. He reunited with his offensive coordinator from Virginia when he had those 50 touchdown passes.
The trap game, man. And what's funny is I'm looking at the schedule too, and I haven't been to a game in a long time, and I'm going to Notre Dame USC this year. So
I am too. That's funny. I'm going to that as well.
I'll probably see you there. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to.
Definitely. We'll do a show live. No, I will say something that I know we have one last topic coming up, but this slipped my mind, and I don't know if it slipped yours too, but we had a really, really, really big commitment in a transfer at safety.
Oh, yes. How could I forget that? Antoine Carter.
Yep.
Antoine Carter.
I forgot about that. It slipped my mind, but that is huge. 2 years of eligibility left. LSU. He called LSU and he said, "Cancel that cab on me. I'm going to Notre Dame." And that dude's a beast. The weakest position Notre Dame had was safety. They have some good starters. They needed another piece to help. He's so talented. He's probably going to start. I mean, I could see him not starting next year and being a rotational piece this year, but I think that's a big boost. He's a super talented player, one of the best players in the portal. He was one of the best safeties. That's a big get for Notre Dame. Huge, absolutely huge. That changes.
And of course, you got the Notre Dame haters on Twitter saying he played at Rhode Island. Calm down. Okay. What will look at his offer list and tell me they care that he played at Rhode Island?
Yeah, he's good. And I like
He's
that
really
Notre
good.
Dame, they finally went after someone that's not a graduate transfer. Finally.
I love it. It's not a
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really starting to like the safety room. Now with DJ Brown, and we've got
Xavier
Thomas
Watts.
Harper. Thomas Harper's back there as well.
Yep.
I think Thomas Harper is a good player as well.
I think Thomas Harper plays more nickel, but yeah, and then you got the Schuler, Ben back there too, Minich, Xavier Watts, DJ Brown, and now we just got that big commitment. I think now we still need another transfer to at certain positions, but I wanted to at least touch on that because that was huge news.
Huge.
Yes.
But as we go on to our final topic of the night, and then we'll get out of here, EA came out, I think it was today, and basically said that college players will be able to opt in to be into the new college football game. But there was a thing about Notre Dame that Notre Dame has not decided whether or not it will give its jerseys and logo yet to EA for the game. Although they said they were not going to be in the game until players got paid.
And now they're getting paid.
Going to get paid. I swear to God, because I know Notre Dame.
I've waited so long for this game to come out, and I swear to God, if I've waited over a decade for this game to come out, and the one school that's not in it is Notre Dame. Now, I'm going to say this. Notre Dame said, like you said, they said they would not join unless players are getting paid. Players getting paid. If Notre Dame decides not to be in the game, they are seriously, and I'm going to say this flat out, they are not attempting to win a national championship, in my opinion.
They're not serious about football.
Not serious. For me, being in the game is a serious recruiting pitch, period. No matter if all get paid the same, if Notre Dame was not in the game, I mean, how would you feel if it was between LSU and you, everything's so close, and you're like, dude, you're going to get $500 is nothing. But you're going to be in this video game. You're going to be in this video game. Why at Notre Dame, you're not. I mean, some kids, that's important. I mean, I really think that's a recruiting pitch. It would be the dumbest thing. I'm going to be honest. If Notre Dame decided not to be in the game, I'd be pissed. When I found out the news that players were going to be in the game, so it's funny. I eked in the bathroom today. I was looking at my phone on.
Yes.
Yep. I was literally in the bathroom, and I was like, yes. But I don't know how to say this. Like, I was just talking to a friend recently, and I was asking him. I was like, "Do you think players will be in the game?" He said, "Yes." And I said, "In my opinion, since there's these schools that say they will not be in the game, they delayed the game a year. If they are serious about having players in the game, with the game coming out in a year, they're going to have to start in about 6 months announcing gameplay, announcing stuff, getting ready for the game, like pre-order. And if they had players in the game, they would have to already start working on that. So this was like 2 months ago, and I said within the next four months, they're going to have to make an announcement that players are going to be in the game. Because if they don't, then I don't think they're going to be in the game." And then like 2 months later, they made the announcement. So,
what's odd though? I don't know, because I was talking to the guys about this. How are they going to do this? Like, so it's coming out in, I believe, the summer of 2024, correct?
yes.
So are they just going to have a year behind with the rosters? Is that
No.
how they're going to do it?
Players
Like-
will be in the game. They're not going to do cancel that. They're going to pay everyone. I think I read $500 for being in the game. It's not much, but I think what
No,
the
I'm
plan
saying
is
like if
they're
they do
going
that,
to
if they get the real players in the game, like all the name, image, likeness stuff in the game.
Yeah.
If they do that now, like for this upcoming season, and get everyone scanned in, whatever, then what happens in 2024 when the game's supposed to come out and you've got players that were on the 2023 roster? Are they going to that's how they're going to do it, where it's going to be, well, if you want the 2024 season roster, you're going to have to wait till NCAA 25 and vice versa. Like, that's where I'm like, because it's the odd timing of it.
Yes. They might start. I was thinking about that too. I was like, Sam Hartman's not going to be in the next year. I think they're going to start. What they should do is start face scanning players now, because a lot of the underclassmen are still going to be there. And if they aren't, they can transfer those face skins to other schools.
Just to a different team, wherever they end up.
I mean, they're not going to do face scans for everybody. Those are just top players.
Yeah.
So
just get like them ugly,
which
weird.
is okay. Yeah. Like, I don't know. Like, you did make a good point. I do think that the roster for 2024 is probably going to be this season's roster. That's my opinion on it. I could see them doing next season's roster, but I think EA is going to start going to schools this fall for practices. They're not going to do it during the season. I see them doing it either spring or fall practice, of doing the pictures, getting the logos situated, getting their faces, getting them their likeliness in the game. I mean, it's not going to be hard for them to email a school and say, send me your roster, their weight, where they're from. I mean, they did it before, right? So the only difference now.
Well, they did it illegally before.
Yes, they did it before, is what I said. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. It's kind of actually reminds me when NCAA 14 first came out. I'm pretty sure that was the roster of the season before.
Season?
Yeah. So I could see NCAA next year being the 2023 season. You know what I'm saying? Because I remember NCAA 13, Monte Teo was in it. But
yeah, I didn't even think about that.
And he was 2012, right? 2014 was I still have NCAA 14. I should know this. I don't even know. I think, was it Golson? No, I don't know. But I do think it's going to be this season. I am worried about. I don't know why I'm worried about Notre Dame, man. I am worried about it because other schools have already said, yeah, we've decided. Notre Dame says they're not. What are you waiting for? Like, what are you undecided about? You know,
it's probably the old heads. It's the old heads at the university. That's what it is.
I swear. Oh, it's so frustrating. I think they will be.
It's sad that it's a question that Notre Dame will be in the game.
Yes,
but pretty much every FCS school is going to be in the game.
Potentially, I don't know if that's confirmed yet.
I know that they said North Dakota State. North Dakota State's going to be in it. South Dakota State, James
I know
Madison's
they said.
Now.
You see my lose. I put about it, and Mike asked Mike what his thoughts were. Oh, hold on.
You're good now.
Can you hear me
now? Yep.
I asked Mike, and I said, "What do you think?" And he said, "You pretty much answered your own question, right?" So I think he agrees. I was just asking if he knew anything. I was like, "Well, Notre Dame said they would be in the game if players are getting paid. Now they're getting paid. Do you think they'll be in the game?" And he was like, "You answered your own question there, right?" They're gonna well, I don't know if they know anything as insiders, but I think that they're going to have to decide soon. We better hear something within the next month or two. But I think that they said I think if I read in the ESPN article right, Notre Dame assisted in the process of this, but is still undecided. Actually, let me pull it up. It says Notre Dame. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Wednesday that the school has been in touch with EA Sports to help with NIL integration for the video game. It doesn't seem, though, that Notre Dame has made a decision being in the game. So they've been helping.
Which would be very dumb. That would be very dumb not to do.
I mean, I would still get the game, but it would not be the same.
If the Notre Dame was not in it, I would get the game, and then I would make a team called Notre Dame.
If we could.
I will make the roster my damn self.
You know what they said they would do if a team opted out? They would just do a team similar. So it'd be like the Shamrocks. That's stupid.
Like the Shamrocks from Madden, like when you would relocate.
I know, to Ireland. That's always the team I relocate to, by the way.
Yeah, I did too. That's hilarious.
What is your opinion on it? Like, what do you feel will happen? Do you think
Notre Dame will be in it? Notre Dame has to be in it. If Notre Dame is not in it, this will be my thoughts.
That's terrible.
That's what I will think about it if Notre Dame is not in the game. That's flat out terrible. So I had to use a little soundbite there because I would be absolutely pissed if Notre Dame's the one team that's not in it. But then I could go play North Dakota State, but I can't play as Notre Dame. What the hell are we doing here?
I shouldn't be worried about it, right? I shouldn't be. It feels like an obvious decision. I feel like I'm going to stress about it until they say Notre Dame's going to be in it, right?
I'm going to stress about it until I buy the game and I see Notre Dame's logo in the freaking game.
I swear. They've already started working on the game. They have to make a decision soon. What do you think the reason would be no, though? Like, what would the reason?
Kind of like how Notre Dame is with NIL. They're kind of slow to adapt and evolve to the ever-changing game that is college football. So I think that's what it is.
If they decide to not go to Notre Dame
because of EA.
Or EA, I'm telling you, recruits are going to look at that seriously. Like, I grew up playing that game. That's how to be honest, that's how I fell in love with college football, was EA college football. And if kids are now, the new generation's going to start playing that and Notre Dame's not in the game, they're going to be playing with other schools. They're going to be, it's going to be weird.
The fact that, like, because me personally, I would always do dynasties with small schools. I can go play at Eastern Michigan and be in the NCAA football game. But if I go to Notre Dame, I can't. That's dumb. That is so dumb.
I think, but my last thoughts on that are, there's no way they're not going to be in the game. You know, there's no way, period. I mean, yes, I'm worried about it, but they said if players were in the game, they would be in the game. I don't see them not being in the game. If they decided not to, it would be a terrible look on the program. So
I might have to go get a big ass sign when I go to the Ohio State or USC game this year. Paint it in all gold lettering and just say, please, for the love of God, be in the new NCAA game, and just make sure that they get it on NBC so they see that.
Yes, and by then they would have a decision. There's no way
if they don't have a decision by then, I would assume they're not going to be in the game.
Yeah, I think for them to be in the game, a decision would have to be made before the fall season.
But anyways, great show, Sean, as always. This has been the Gold Standard with your host, Ryan Fervell, with my buddy Sean. Follow him over on ND Forever on Twitter. I'm at Fervell_Ryan on Twitter. We will be back next week. Friday, we will be coming out with our Big Ten conference predictions and breakdowns with the Week Zero podcast crew. So make sure you tune in for that. But as always, have a good night. And as always, go Irish.
Go Irish.